The eviction notice hit our door so hard, it echoed through the hallway. My mother froze my father's coffee, slipped from his hand, and on the sidewalk, Celeste Granger smirked beneath her neon turquoise blazer like she owned the whole block. 30 days, she said, tapping her gold pen against the paper. You're done here. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains as if they were watching a public execution. But when Celeste turned and saw me stepping forward, her smile twitched just a little, because she had no idea who I was, or what I had already uncovered about her HOA. Celeste Granger didn't walk through neighborhoods, she claimed them. People said you could hear her before you saw her, the click of those metallic heels, the swish of her jewel-bright blazer, the snap of her clipboard like she was loading a weapon. And for years, no one dared to challenge her. Why would they? Celeste wasn't just the HOA president. She was the self-appointed queen of Briarwood Crest, ruling with fines instead of laws, and intimidation instead of logic. She moved through the cul-de-sacs as if every lawn was hers to approve every fence, hers to judge every homeowner, hers to command. And she enjoyed it, the power, the fear, the way people straightened up their porch decor when she walked by. My parents had watched her from a distance for years, quietly avoiding trouble, paying dues on time, trimming hedges to regulation height. They played by the rules long before Celeste rewrote them. But last month, something changed in her. The bright blazers got louder. The fines came faster. The rules shifted weekly, each revision sharper than the last. She wasn't enforcing order anymore. She was clearing territory. And my parents' home, the one they'd held for nearly 4 decades, sat right in the center of the land Celeste wanted. So she did what people like her always do. She picked the oldest, quietest couple she could find, and assumed no one would ever stand in her way. What she didn't know was that someone already had. It started small, the kind of small that people like Celeste Granger think won't be questioned. A bright yellow citation stuck to my parents' front door. Unauthorized railing repair, $180 fine. My father, Leonard, stared at it for a full minute before saying quietly, "We didn't repair anything." He was right. But Celeste didn't need real violations. She just needed paperwork that said there were. That same evening, while reviewing their doorbell footage, a habit he'd picked up after a mail theft issue last year, he saw it. A silver pickup truck pulling up. A young man in HOA blue joggers, Evan Marsh, one of Celeste's board loyalists. He dabbed paint on the railing, took photos of his own handiwork, and drove off. 5 minutes. A fake violation manufactured like it was just another task on his to-do list. My father saved the footage immediately. 3 copies. That was the night he realized the harassment wasn't random, it was strategic, and the target was his home. Within days, the attacks multiplied. A new letter, trash bins, placed 4 inches outside alignment, $95. Except my mother, Elise, had measured them twice that morning. Then, air conditioning noise exceeds regulation. Except the AC hadn't even been running, the temperature was 62 degrees. Every accusation felt like a push. Every fine like a shove. My mother stopped gardening. My father stopped opening the blinds. Their sanctuary was becoming a battlefield they never asked for. Then came the night that cracked something inside both of them. At 9:47 p.m., someone banged on their door. It was Evan Marsh again, this time smelling of beer, grinning like cruelty was a joke. "I know you're in there," he called, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "This neighborhood isn't for people like you. You won't last long." My mother locked the door. My father called the police. The officers came and then shrugged. "Try to get along with your HOA," one said, tone flat. Like my parents were the problem. Like they were the ones causing trouble. That's when my father's hands first began to shake. The next week became a siege. Every morning a new citation. Every evening a new envelope, pushing them closer to violation escalation. My mother, once cheerful and talkative, now walked from room to room without purpose, as if checking what part of her life would be taken next. My father lost 12 pounds in 3 weeks. Eating became impossible when your stomach lived in knots. Still, they documented everything. My father filled a leather notebook with dates, times, witnesses, screenshots, and photos. He didn't realize it, but he was building the kind of evidence case lawyers dream of. He was doing the work of an investigator because no one else would help them. Then came the black SUV. It parked across the street for 3 nights in a row. No one got out, no lights. Just a silhouette watching the house engine idling. Was it HOA? Was it someone from the development plans Celeste was rumored to be involved with? My parents didn't know. Not knowing is its own kind of torture. On the 3rd night, my mother whispered to my father in bed, "Are we safe?" He didn't answer because he didn't know. Still believing the system would help, my father filed formal complaints. He called the HOA office. "Your call will be returned." It never was. He visited the county records office. Months of rule amendments, 19 inches total. Almost all of them applied to large lot homes like theirs. 3 families had recently left the community under suspiciously similar circumstances. My father mapped the pattern: minor citations, fabricated violations, accusations of document irregularities, pressured sale. It was a playbook, a practiced one. Still, he hoped someone in authority would intervene. Someone fair, someone honest. But when he met with a local attorney, the man sighed and said, "Fighting an HOA with deep pockets is almost impossible. They can drag you into bankruptcy even if you're right." My mother cried that night for the first time, not because of fear, but because she realized they were truly alone. That's when my father made the call he'd avoided making. He dialed me. His voice cracked on the first word. "Son, they're trying to take the house." I told him I'd be on the first flight out. The final hit came the next morning. A certified letter. Thick, official, cold. My father opened it with trembling hands. The words blurred from my mother as she listened. Notice of violation. Level 3, falsified ownership documents. HOA believes the original 1987 deed contains irregularities. Failure to provide proof of legitimate ownership will result in mandatory vacation of property within 30 days. My mother dropped into a chair. My father read the lines again, slower this time, as if they'd change. Signature doesn't match. Notary stamp inconsistent. Down payment record missing. The house they had paid off with 3 jobs and 40 years of sacrifice now labeled fraudulent, and the hearing scheduled for 10 days later. A show trial. A predetermined eviction dressed up as procedure. My father went to the attic, pulled out the box of documents they'd kept for decades, yellowed papers, proving their innocence, but even he knew what Celeste would say. "These look tampered with." My mother whispered, "We're going to lose everything." And for the first time in his life, my father had no answer. That night at 2:01 a.m., unable to hold it together any longer, he called me again. When I answered, groggy and worried, he said the words he'd been holding back. "Please come home. We need you." He didn't know that by calling me, he had just changed the entire course of the war. Because Celeste wasn't just picking on 2 elderly homeowners. She was picking a fight with their son, the one person she should have never underestimated. The community hall was packed, folding chairs, scraping whispers, buzzing people, craning their necks for a better view. Nobody attended HOA meetings, unless someone was about to get humiliated. And today the crowd expected my parents to lose their home. At the front sat Celeste Granger in a teal power blazer, so bright it almost glowed under the fluorescent lights. On her left, Warren Clegg, her rule enforcer. On her right, Evan Marsh, who avoided looking at the audience as if afraid someone might recognize him from the doorbell footage. Celeste tapped her pen theatrically. "Let's begin. Property 182 Willowbend is under investigation for fraudulent ownership. Mr. and Mrs. Brennan, do you have evidence to prove your claim?" My parents sat quietly in the 3rd row, hands clasped. They weren't alone this time. I stood behind them. Before my father could rise, Celeste launched into her presentation. Slide after slide of zoomed-in signatures, pixelated notary stamps, charts pretending to be forensic science. She said phrases like, "deep inconsistencies, high probability of forgery, expert review confirms doubts," the audience murmured. The trap was closing. Celeste folded her arms, triumphant. As stated, the HOA moves to revoke ownership and require vacation of the property within 30 days. I stepped forward. "Madam President," I said, my voice calm, but cutting through the room like a blade, "you're not done." "Not yet." Celeste blinked. "And you are." I walked down the aisle, the projector light flickering across my suit. "I'm Dr. Mason Brennan, Leonard and Elise's son, their legal representative." I held up a tablet, and unlike your slideshow, I brought real evidence. Gasps rippled through the room. Celeste smirked. "A family member. That won't change." "It will," I said, connecting my tablet to their projector. "You should have password protected your system. Mistake number 1. Slide 1 appeared on the screen, a professionally restored scan of the original 1987 deed, authenticated, certified, verified by the county 3 days ago. This, I said, is the legitimate ownership document. No inconsistencies, no expired notary, no fraud. Celeste's smile cracked. Slide 2. The down payment check cleared, archived, logged in microfilm. The bank statements matched every mortgage payment for 15 years. Slide 3. Doorbell footage of Evan Marsh painting the railing, then photographing it. The room erupted. Someone in the back shouted, "Is that HOA sabotage?" Evan's face went ghost pale. Celeste hissed at him under her breath, but the damage was done. Slide 4. A timeline of 19 rule changes in 6 months, all targeting 3 specific homes, including my parents. Slide 5. Emails leaked from a former board member. Elderly homeowners won't fight. 182. Willowbend is prime for redevelopment. Make violations look organic. I paused, letting the ugliness sink into every corner of the room. Then I said the line that dropped the temperature. Everything you see on that screen is admissible in court. Celeste stood so fast her chair screeched. This meeting is out of order. This is unauthorized. I turned and faced her fully. You want the truth, Celeste? Here it is. I pulled a card from my jacket and placed it on the board's table. Dr. Mason Brennan, Federal Compliance Investigator, Housing and Civil Rights Division. Her face changed instantly. Shock, fear, recognition. You're federal, she whispered. Yes, I said, voice steady. And for the past 6 days, I've been building a formal case against you and this board. The room went dead silent. Celeste staggered back into her chair. Evan swallowed hard. Warren began sweating so visibly, the man in the first row scooted away from him. I wasn't finished. With this evidence, I said I've already contacted federal authorities. And right about now, the doors at the back of the hall opened. 2 agents in navy jackets stepped inside. The crowd exploded. The lead agent stepped forward, badge out. By federal order, this meeting is suspended. We are executing a warrant to seize all HOA financial and communication records. Celeste raised a trembling hand. This is outrageous, I demand. You can demand from your attorney, the agent said. Ma'am, please step aside. Agents moved to the board table, boxing documents, collecting laptops, confiscating phones. Evan Marsh tried to slip toward the door, but 2 neighbors blocked his path. You're staying, one of them growled. Warren stammered. I didn't know. I was only following procedures. The agent cut him off. We've reviewed your emails, Mr. Clegg. You weren't following procedures. You were helping fabricate them. Celeste's voice finally cracked. This was never personal. This community depends on order, and it was personal, I said quietly, stepping closer to her. You didn't expect pushback. You didn't expect scrutiny. And you definitely didn't expect the quiet couple you targeted to have a son who specializes in dismantling schemes like yours. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. The agent turned to me. Dr. Brennan, thank you. Your evidence expedited this investigation. Neighbors who'd once avoided my parents now stood up cheering, clapping, shouting at the board members who'd tormented them all. Celeste was escorted toward the exit, not handcuffed yet, but close. Her posture had collapsed, her authority gone, her power shattered. Just before she passed me, she muttered, "You blindsided me." I leaned in slightly. "No," I said. "You blinded yourself." As she was led away, my parents looked at me with expressions I'd never forget. Relief, disbelief, gratitude, and the return of something I hadn't seen in months. Dignity. The room kept buzzing with shock and noise, but my focus stayed on them. My father straightened his shoulders for the first time in weeks. My mother wiped her eyes, breathing deeply steady again. This house, this fight, this moment, it all crystallized into one truth. They had survived the storm, and I had delivered the thunder. In the days that followed the HOA meltdown, Briarwood Crest felt like a different world. People who used to avoid my parents now appeared at their porch with pies, apologies, or trembling explanations of why they'd stayed silent for so long. Federal agents made frequent visits loading evidence boxes from the HOA office into black SUVs. News vans appeared at the main gate. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains whispering about bribery, fake violations, redevelopment deals, embezzlement. The whole rotten operation peeled open like a wound, finally getting air. My father's leather notebook became the backbone of the federal case. My mother's calm recollection of each confrontation, every fine, every insult, formed the emotional spine. One morning, an agent stopped by with a small smile. "You two built one of the cleanest paper trails we've ever seen in an HOA case," she said. "You didn't just defend yourselves, you exposed an entire system." My mother looked down at her hands and whispered, "We only wrote down what happened." But what they wrote had become the reason half a dozen board members and contractors were now facing real consequences. As for Celeste Granger, she resigned under federal investigation, though resigned was generous. 3 weeks later, she appeared in court pale, shaken, and stripped of the self-importance she once wore like armor. For the first time, she faced something she couldn't intimidate: accountability. With the corrupt board removed, the neighborhood held a special election. This time, people actually showed up not to gossip, but to rebuild. A new board was formed, made of residents who genuinely wanted fairness, including 2 neighbors who'd apologized to my parents in tears. My father reopened the blinds. My mother returned to her garden, trimming the roses she'd once abandoned out of fear. The sound of her watering can in the mornings, once drowned out by anxiety, became a melody again. I stayed for a few weeks, helping them organize documents, repaint a few areas, and fix the railing Evan had vandalized. But mostly I stayed to be present, something I'd been too busy to do for years. One evening after dinner, my father joined me on the porch. "You know," he said quietly, "I thought we were done for. I thought they were going to bury us in paperwork until we broke." "You didn't break," I told him. "You documented. You stayed calm. You fought the only way you knew how." He chuckled. "Guess a history teacher and a former nurse make a decent investigative team." My mother overheard from the doorway. "Next time anyone tries this," she said, pointing her pruning shears like a wand, "they'll be dealing with me first." We laughed because there was finally space for laughter again. The fear was fading. The house felt lighter. My parents felt like themselves again. That was the real victory. Half a year later, I visited again. Spring had come early, scattering petals across the walkway like confetti. My daughter Mia ran ahead of me, chasing butterflies the way kids do with pure, unfiltered joy. My mother knelt by the garden bed, planting a fresh row of marigolds. My father hammered a small wooden sign onto the porch, handcrafted, polished, and painted a deep blue. "The Brennan Home. Est. 1987. Protected by truth, guarded by family." He stepped back and admired it. "What do you think?" he asked. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I think it's perfect." Inside, the table was set for dinner. 3 generations gathered in the same kitchen, where my mother had once cried, thinking everything was lost. Now she smiled as Mia helped her stir a bowl, spilling flour everywhere. Life had moved forward, but it hadn't forgotten. Healing doesn't erase the scars, it transforms them. After dinner, we sat on the porch as the sun dipped low, coloring the sky gold like the beginning of peace. My father leaned back, hands folded. "You know what this taught me?" he said softly. "That home isn't just something you buy, it's something you protect. And sometimes, the people you raised become the ones who protect you." Mia climbed onto his lap. "Grandpa, tell me again about the mean lady who tried to steal your house." My father laughed. "We don't tell it because it's about a mean lady," he said gently. "We tell it because it's about standing up even when it's scary." Then he looked at me. "And because someone always comes home when family needs them." The porch light flicked on. The roses swayed. And for the first time since the nightmare began, the night felt calm. My parents hadn't just survived. They'd reclaimed everything that mattered. Their home, their peace, their dignity, and together we'd rewritten the ending the way justice is supposed to look.